we're all making this together and finding out together what focusing oriented relating is and what it needs to be. And maybe it's more than one thing, and maybe it's different things to different ones of us. We're in this together, and at the same time, I'm initiating it, and I'm sort of driving the van. I see us in this big van. Well, I start out driving the van, and then the van sort of goes by itself. And we really jumped in last time. My intention was that we would start with training wheels, as Nick put it in our conversation. You talked about that, Nick, that we'll start with structure, and then we'll slowly open up to more spontaneity and flow and less structure. But that was my full intention. It's still my intention. But when Liz last time said, "Can I speak?" I spontaneously said, "Well, why are you asking that?" Now, that's not the kind of response of structure. I would say, oh, if I was structuring the beginning, I would say, oh, yes, it's fine to speak now, right? That would be the structure. If I say, why are you asking? Then it gives the message, well, you don't have to ask permission to speak. But then how do we all speak if we don't ask permission to speak? And we were right in the middle of the nitty-gritty of it, in trying to navigate and negotiate how we speak. Who has the right to speak? When does that person speak? How do we speak? How long do we speak? And that issue of structure and spontaneity, I thought, oh, I'm going to solve that problem by starting with structure and then slowly opening up. But of course, that didn't work because, well, for one thing, it didn't work because many of you have been in other modules of this seminar, and we've established, those of you who've been in it before, a culture of spontaneity, and not a culture of the leader at the top giving pearls of wisdom to the class. So we already had that culture. And then even though some of you are new to this module, that culture has continued, of course. We're carrying it forward. And it didn't work because that question of how we live together, and everybody has a voice, like Greg's Embodied Democracy. The core of that value is this conflict between structure and spontaneity. And we have it in our governments, we have it in our families, we have it everywhere. It's such a basic human struggle that I'm certainly not going to solve that problem, like the problem of the chicken and the egg, by saying, okay, we're going to be structured and then we'll get less structured. We have to all struggle with that together. And each one of us has our own needs for structure and the kinds of structure we need, and our needs for freedom and spontaneity. So we're working that out together already, I think. Part of holding these deep conflicts is developing an inner group. So I'm developing an inner you, an inner us, and you're developing an inner us. We're getting to know each other's needs and desires and how we're different and what makes us come alive. In the vein of training wheels, I want to just give a one paragraph overview of what my intention is in this class. And for some of you, it will be very familiar, but some of you might need it to be spoken more explicitly. I've always wanted to explore how focusing can help with the relating in conversation, in community empowerment, and in our personal lives, that we are relating. How does focusing help us? And so in this class, we're approaching it like there are three practices, one of focusing, one of listening, and then we're developing this third one together because Jean didn't really develop it, and this practice of relating. And we're doing that together. And I have some ideas, and you people have some ideas. And it's a class and a group. And we have two ways of relating. In the class, I'm speaking and you're responding. And then we want times when we're all relating together, and you're not relating to me, you're relating to everybody. And we're trying out, seeing how we can be versatile in those two ways. Because in our lives, we really relate very differently to our children and to our clients, to our neighbors, to our enemies, to our whatever, each kind of relationship we're relating, we are different and we're relating differently. So we're trying to see if we can relate in different ways here. The first half will be more like a class in which I want to convey some ideas. And then we have a little break. And then the second half, we're going to be practicing. So they'll interweave with each other. But I recognize your point, Liz, about wanting to get to some of the other aspects. I just want to say, though, that I think in a room full of people, that's going on implicitly all the time. Who gets to speak? Who doesn't get to speak? How do we navigate who's speaking? How do you deal with it in a party when somebody comes up to you and they're speaking, and you want to go talk to somebody else? Or when you go up to somebody and they look at you as if they want to go talk to some. I mean, there's a lot that is in our lives about. I want us to talk about the focusing attitude and how the focusing attitude translates into relating, this third step. Is there other aspects of the focusing attitude that are particularly needed for relating? We probably are all familiar with the term, the focusing attitude, and it's a kind of funny term because that attitude of openness and curiosity and receptivity, human beings needed that attitude a lot before focusing came into, at least in its narrow sense of the word, into being. But I think that we know as focusing people that there needs to be a breath, centeredness, in order for something to come. We need to be open. We need to be non-judgmental, or it scurries away and hides in dissociation or just pushing away. And I think relating has maybe a few other aspects to it than what we're really familiar with in terms of openness and receptivity. And that's what we're playing with this morning. I enjoyed thinking about a relating attitude, but in maybe somebody could read some of those things that I wrote down as relating attitudes, and we could see what, if you have some to add or if these resonate with you.
Focusing attitudes. Openness and curiosity to oneself and the other. Valuing the uniqueness and mystery of the other and oneself. Alertness to the more, the underneath, the deeper level, the implicit, beyond right and wrong.
A hunger for engagement and emotional responsiveness. A longing for belonging, the vulnerability of our humanness. Willingness to leave the safe shores of like-mindedness and similarity, and willingness to wade into the waters of diversity, difference, and unfamiliarity.
A longing for belonging just kind of felt stuck. It didn't feel like it was moving forward. The one on the willingness to leave the safe shores of like-mindedness and similarity, and willingness to wade into so not that this doesn't feel like an attitude, but something in me resisted it because it was constructed as an or, and a part of me wanted to say no. And how can we
I love
have
that.
the safe
Yes.
shores and wade into the waters?
And assuming the sameness as well as assuming the difference.
A missing one was something about interaction first, that we're interaction first, like having that attitude of being formed, emerging. I feel like to explicitly say that as a relating attitude.
I would really appreciate it if you would write that on Shakafe and correct the other ones, and if all of us would. What I experienced from you, Robin, is that you were demonstrating a relating attitude maybe that we don't have here on this list, which is to say something and to say at the same time, I'm not wanting to be confrontational. I'm wanting to learn from this. There's something that I think we need to add to this list about speaking for oneself without being identified with oneself. If you don't want to just react, you want to say that so that it can be responded to and go somewhere. So I don't know how we would word that, but maybe we can work on it.
The fourth is seeking embodied democracy, everyone having a voice, no group think. Valuing true disagreement, looking for what we can learn from it, looking for the grain of truth or the new perspective.
I think Robin was doing that.
About perspective. The next one is trusting the process, looking for the little steps of opening in what can seem like chaos. And the last one, readiness to go to the edge of the interaction, but not over the edge.